Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
Hi, I'm Owen Cosner, or Owen's Bricks on YouTube and Instagram, and this is my Umbara MOC. So this is based off of the 4-episode story arc from the animated Clone Wars series, specifically the final episode of the 4-episode arc.
So tell us kind of what's happening here. We got a lot of action going on.
Yeah. So this is kind of the main climax of the episode when the clone troopers, they go to arrest General Krell, arrest him for treason, and he doesn't like that, so he goes, they go to arrest him in the top of the tower, but he comes out of the tower, crashes through the window, and lands on the main air base, and that's where the main battle ensues.
So you've got all these minifigures laid out here. Are those custom figures, or where did you get those parts from?
Yeah, most of it are official LEGO pieces and figures. I used a new macro binocular piece that just released earlier this year. And there are a few Clone Army custom figures as well for a lot of the named clones.
And then outside of the figures themselves, talk about kind of the main building there, because there's some crazy stuff happening with that.
Yeah, so that definitely was the biggest challenge of this build. So I took a lot of inspiration from Bridgeport Jay's Camino MOC that he's working on right now for the dome structure. It's a lot of Technic and hinge pieces to get to be flush, a lot of panels. Each of the individual panels come off individually using Technic pins and bricks. And then the tower, I make use of flex tubing, a lot of hinges to kind of get all the angles to be perfect and the least amount of gaps as possible.
So are those just kind of panels attached to the Technic core then, and you just kind of decorated them each differently?
Exactly.
What were some of the pieces you used to create those different shapes? Because there's like the blue stripes running through, then you've got like the darker gray and the light gray.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest parts was the panel. And getting to allow things to overlap, just like so. There's a slight incline in some of the panels, but it makes it look like it's kind of one continuous structure all the way around. But a lot of slopes, wedges to kind of get some of the angled, like the dark blue lines, get that kind of angled using the different slopes and wedges as well.
And you mentioned the tower there, and as you can see, it kind of gets wider as it goes up, right? So how did you get that effect to get it wider at the top?
So I have one long flex tube running from the top to the bottom, and it kind of angles outwards, and then each of the I kind of like call them like ribs. It kind of looks like that. They kind of each attach individually to kind of get the gradual curve outwards.
That looks fantastic there. And then when we come back down to the base here, what is this spaceship here?
So that is the Umbaran starfighter. So this is the planet of Umbara. So the clones they've captured this airbase. So this would belong to the Umbarans, and that is their kind of starship that they use. So I wanted to capture that because it's a pretty important vehicle in these episodes. So I first designed that in Studio, which was my first time really ever using Studio before. So I got to mess with that, which was really fun. And then I had to translate that into real life. I ran into a few issues, sometimes Studio told me certain connections were possible when they really weren't, and also had some structural stability issues. So I had to work those out in real life, but it was a fun experience to try to use that.
And I mean, there's some really complex parts techniques here. So looks like a lot of kind of sideways building. What are some of the parts you use there?
So yeah, that wing specifically, there's some markings that I used, different arches to line them up perfectly, a lot of brackets, as well as snot bricks, curved slopes to get kind of the angled portions of the wings, and as well as a lot of curved slopes and Technic bricks as well.
And then you've got kind of stacks of things kind of scattered around. So you use the old dice piece there?
Yes, it is. I love using that piece for crates. It's one of my favorites. I looked at, for the crates specifically, I tried to make them as accurate to those episodes as possible and recreate the different designs that you see in those actual episodes.
Moving to the back right corner, you've got a little bit of a different experience going on. So what's that?
Yeah, so that's an Easter egg to Lego Star Wars 3, the video game. On Geonosis, like there's a cutscene where they're landing their troops, and there are a couple clones working out. You know, they're having ice cream. There's an ice cream truck there, and I love that game. I really want to include some sort of reference to that game, so that's kind of why I decided to choose. I try to make it as accurate as I could. There are a few pieces that don't actually exist in real life that I had to kind of find some substitutes for, but I'm really happy with how that's turned out.
I think really the best part of the whole layout, I think, is that back right corner.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I mean, sure, that building is pretty impressive, but that ice cream truck is pretty beautiful.
Moving to the front of the build here, you've got these blue gates. So is that kind of like an electric force field type idea?
Yeah, they call it a sensor wall in the show. One of my favorite pieces was making use of the chain and translucent light blue to kind of get like that look of energy flowing through it. It's mostly, the rest of it is mostly stacked studs on top of each other, just to kind of get that electric kind of fence look that is in the show.
Now, I haven't seen the show, so what does this black part represent? Because it's very much in contrast to the rest of the build here.
Yeah, so that's the main landscaping of the planet. It's a very alien planet, a lot of weird-looking plants and wildlife, but it looks black in the show. It's like very, I think it's called the Shadow World is the nickname for the planet. So there's a lot of kind of spiky terrain that I really want to try to capture. I made use of wheel pieces to kind of get some of those plants. I turned a lot of them inside out to get a kind of weird, unique look to it. Used a lot of tail and pieces, and I'm really happy with how that's turned out.
Yeah, stacking those tires up creates such a crazy looking effect. And then is that like a little red diamond at the end of those?
Yeah, that's ruby. I got those like years and years and years ago on the pick-a-brick wall. Haven't used them for anything until this build, so I'm really happy that I had those.
And then I like kind of the subtle differences you made in the floor itself here. So how did you achieve that effect?
Yeah, and it's a very cubical design, so I wanted to capture that. There's a lot, I use like road signs as well as cabinet doors. And these cabinet doors, they're attached with the handle on the back side of
That's fantastic.
a headlight brick, and I love that technique, so I made sure to use that. Yeah.
Very, very cool build there. Now, to the left of this, you've got another smaller Star Wars build. So what is this here?
This is a bit of an inside joke. So just on a live stream, we just started photoshopping shoes on walkers, and I decided to build it in real life and take it here. So I have this ATST wearing slides.
There you go. The all-terrain slide transport.
Exactly.
I mean, why not?
The ATST, all-terrain slide transport.
Fantastic work here. Thank you for all your effort put into these builds. Really, really high-level techniques here, so it's very impressive layout. Do you have any plans for other Star Wars builds in the future?
Yeah, I have a few plans that I want to get to eventually. I want to try to design every pod racer and maybe make a massive pod race mock. I think that would be really cool. I would also love to do Malachor with the Ahsoka versus Vader from Star Wars Rebels. I think that would be a really fun build as well.
Looking forward to it. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.